Well, today I've come to the Wadbury Valley, which is a truly ancient valley and was walked by people from the 1st century on, and has got a lot of industrial archaeology, a lot of fun all around the area. So we're going to have a walk through here and get a feeling for the area and see what we can see. So come with me and we'll have a good time. You can see behind me here the Carboniferous limestone, which is the gorge, the valley that goes through here. And the reason that I state it so ancient, I'll let you know later, because it genuinely is, and it's got a geological feature that nowhere else in this area has got, and very few places I think in the world have. So it's a very interesting thing. And you now get a concept of how steep this valley's becoming as we walk into it. First of all, we'll look at a small piece of industrial archaeology on our route. And you can now see behind me this chimney, which was a mill, which was part of the James Fussell Empire, set up in 1744, and this was the first of his small ironworks down here that produced fine hand iron tools. And this was the first one. We'll have a look around at it in a minute. And these tools went all over the world, and it was quite a significant thing at the time. Also, the mill, later, looking at later maps, was a sawmill as well. So it went from being an iron mill producing tools into a sawmill. Well, I'm now down in the ruins of the mill, and you can see them just behind me here if I stand to one side. And it is just great to think that this was set up in the 1700s, then used as a sawmill in the 1900s, and then went out of use. And there's a bigger ironworks further on down as well, and also the wonderful geological feature. And I'll take a few little bits of shots around here so you can see a bit more of it. You can see this would have been one of the rooms off of the mill, and there are water channels that lead all underneath, so they can obviously shut off water, start up water to use on a water wheel to give them power to be able to do things. And you can see the old mill race here as well. And you can see it gets much wider here, and that's because stone has been taken out over the years. So in the 1st century, this would have been a narrow gorge that would have been walked through from one end to the other. And you'll notice there's this lovely waterfall behind me, and this is in fact the outlet from the quarry, local quarry. So the water's pumped out and it comes into the river here at this stage here. So this is just water from a quarry, but very picturesque, and it helps maintain the levels in the Mells River. But there is another really interesting fact here, which I'll show you next. This small inlet that you can see that goes off on the other side of the river there is the Mells River Sink. And just up from that is another anomaly as well, which is like a little cave that goes in. And water enters here and goes on down through and pops up at Hapsford Spring 2 miles away. And it is a rare geological feature. I'll put diagrams up about it as well, but this rare geological feature, the Mells River Sink, was discovered in the 1960s by putting dye into the water and it coming up a couple of miles down the river at the Hapsford Spring. But then at low water levels, a caving group did some excavations here, and they removed a lot of material out and went down through into the cave. They used pumps to pump away the water, and they found a 1st century cloak pin. So that shows that the area was used for that. And because we now know it was a Jurassic melt river, formed by the Carboniferous limestone with the water going down through it after ice melt, there was woolly rhinoceros bones. So that is just truly amazing. We are really walking in some ancient history. And things get no better than that sometimes. So we've seen the waterfall, which is the water that's pumped out of Watley Quarry. Millions of gallons of water. If that water wasn't pumped out, the Mells River sink sometimes backs up and acts as a spring. But I'll let you have a little look online and read up about it, but it's interesting. So I'm going to walk on further now, and we'll look at the next part of the Ironworks, where over 300 people worked. But it's an amazing walk in this lovely valley, and to think how fantastic it is that this would have been much narrower at one stage, a mere gorge going down through with a stream at the bottom of it, but now is much wider due to people removing stone over the years. And it was a quarry, an industrial quarry towards the bottom bit years ago in the 1960s, and that's all gone now. So it's now a nature reserve, and there's lots of different things around here, which I'll try and point out as well. So let's carry on. Well, I now get to the next part of the old Ironworks, and you can see this old fireplace behind me here in the wall, and this is made from the limestone, the Carboniferous limestone. So this is part of the old Ironworks, the second Ironworks that was built down here, and there were 4 in total. But it's brilliant to see, and this is where people were inhabiting and living here. So up to 300 people, as I said earlier, working here. And it's just an interesting place to come and see. But there is another story that I'll let you know about in just a moment. And stood here by this old part of the Ironworks, the story is, yet another haunted mystery story, is that a lady was here and her nightdress caught fire. She was living here in this area. Ran and threw herself into the river, which you can probably hear behind me, and she was carried down and drowned in the weir. That was around 1908. It's probably a factual thing and very sad. But a lot of people believe that this area is haunted by a lady with a black dog. And also people have reported various things happening, being pushed and sensing things around them. So yet another mystery story in these places. Bound to happen, really. So a ghost story again. And you can see how far the old Ironworks just stretches along this bit, and it's all the way down here in various sections. Truly incredible. So James Fussell, an engineer, rented land from the Horners and started his business off. And it became a massive business, and then went into decline really much later into the 19th century. And was finally used about 1941. Now stood down here at the Mells River, you can see what a beautiful spot it is. And I'm going to then walk on down now to the main part of the old Ironworks, which is in private hands. So you can't really get access into there unless you're lucky. Behind me here is the old hammer houses where they had furnaces in there and they would be hammering by water powered hammers and making tools. This is on private land and I've had privilege and special permission from a friend to just come here and see this today. Well, I'm now going to carry on further on my walk and carry on further down through the valley. If you notice behind me there's lots of trees covered in moss, which is quite an eerie picture. But there's loads of different species of moss. I don't know of any of them. I've not read up on mosses. Doesn't really get to me. But it's quite nice to see. So we'll carry on from this area a bit further along now and see how we get on. You can see that there's many caves and hollows around here. We're not going to investigate any of them today, but they are really interesting, and the valley now narrows down in size. So this would have been the sort of size of the original valley before any form of quarrying ever took place. Stood amongst the snowdrops in this other part of the old Ironworks, which stretches all the way along here. I think I'm going to head my way on back. I'll put the full map on the video. It really is a great place to walk through or include on part of a walk, and it's full of industrial archaeology, and really we've walked in the footsteps of over 1,000 years of history that we're aware of. And going back before that, obviously we've got the Ice Age, which created this wonderful place. And further on down it gets a bit more industrial, a bit more opened out, and it's not quite as nice. But this area is just absolutely beautiful, worth a walk. It's full of mystery, it's full of lots of different things, and well worth coming.